shit, John. Oh, shit. Oh,
Are we doing this now?
shit.
Is this happening right now?
Motherfuck.
Right.
God damn. This is a child-friendly podcast.
Wait.
Sons of bitches.
Can I do the intro?
Do it. Go for it. Yeah.
What do I say?
You say, oh, shit.
Oh shit.
And you say, what's up? What's up? Okay, there you get into it. And now, welcome to the Rage Select Podcast right here on Rage Select. I'm Jeff. Welcome to the Rage Select Podcast. I'm Rage Select. I'm Jeff. Okay, that's pretty good. I was wondering whether you were going to say I'm Jeff or not, but hey, everybody.
Okay, that's pretty good. I was wondering if you were going to say Jeff or not. And
I think this is part of your grand scheme to learn how to do my voice so that you could just, put me in an early grave and take over, which, to be honest, I'm not totally opposed to. But it's time for another Rage Select Podcast. Before we do anything else, hey, listeners, you should go into the comment section and wish John a belated happy birthday.
yeah.
Because although we are recording this before his birthday, it will be coming out after his birthday.
Yeah, my birthday is on June 29th.
What do you think you're going to get for your birthday?
I'm getting a video game.
Okay.
That you already gave me.
Yeah.
I'm getting.
I don't want you counting that as a present. That was just like, John, I'm not going to play this. Do you want it?
Hey, I take it as getting I was
Sure.
like, shit, my birthday's tomorrow. I'll count this as a present.
All right, fair enough.
Whatever, man. But I'll probably get I'm getting another video game.
Nice. Two video games?
2 video games, yeah. I think I might be getting a DVD of some kind.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I think that's about it.
Okay. 2 video games and a DVD.
Oh.
You can do a lot worse.
Amanda's mother's sending me beef jerky, so that's good.
Well, geez, what else do you need?
Yeah, that's like the thing. But yeah, I don't really think I'm getting a lot for my birthday. This year's kind of sucked, and not like I wish more people got me more stuff for my birthday. Kind of suck. It's just like this year's kind of sucked, and it kind of sucks for everybody I know.
Yeah.
So this year, like usually, like in the past, I've been like on the first of the month, like, hey, my birthday's at the end of the month. Here's my Amazon wish list if anybody wants to get me anything.
Right.
Just being a dick like that.
Yeah.
Or I'll be like, hey, my birthday's in a couple days. Here's my Amazon wish list if anyone wants to get me anything. This year I didn't do that. I was like, nah, this year sucks for everybody. I don't expect
well,
anything.
you know what? I'll tell you one thing that, it wasn't exact. The timing was a little bit off, but you did get one birthday present that we should talk about before we go any longer.
Okay.
It was a bunch of gorgeous ladies, and they were wrestling.
Yeah, the gorgeous ladies of Glow appeared on Netflix.
God damn, that was a good series.
Yeah, it was really good.
I loved it. I loved it.
It was great. As someone who actually watched the original Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, it was interesting to watch.
Yep. No, it was great.
And it's interesting in how much. Well, it's totally fictitious. Like the behind the scenes stuff that are in that show. Not what happened.
Yeah.
Like the characters they're even portraying, while they may be inspired by actual people or characters, they have different names and different 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 looks and different different backstories or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But they got a lot right too.
I thought it was it's definitely fictitious, but as somebody who went back and watched it, what mattered at least to me was that they got the feel of the whole thing. Very
totally.
Very
good. Totally. It was great. It was a great show. Like I was actually I was really hoping it was going to be good. Like the showrunners are the same people who do Orange is the New Black.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. And what's also great, if you are not familiar with Glow, like if you've watched the show and you're like, man, that was really good, but I want to know what this is really about. The documentary,
also on Netflix,
that actually inspired them to make this show is also on Netflix, and you should go watch it.
So I'm going to briefly say, so for those of you who don't know, I don't know. For the people that are watching this are pretty savvy at this point, but all right. So the year was 1980, and there was a brand new. It used to be, okay, ladies and gentlemen, it would go back in the Wayback Machine, doodly doodly doo. Used to be there were only 3 networks on television: CBS, NBC, and ABC.
Yes,
and in the 80s. And a brand new upstart, somebody decided we're going to have a new non-cable, straight-up channel, and that was Fox. And in the beginning, Fox was weird because they didn't have enough money to really do anything. So, but then they slowly started to build up this kind of counterculture image where they had like Married with Children, the Tracy Ullman Show that then turned, and then the Simpsons from that.
And Glow even guest appeared in an episode of Married with Children.
And then the Morton Downey Jr. show, which there's actually a really fascinating documentary about Morton Downey Jr., who was like a Republican kind of talk show agitator, like long before any of the current group. He's just the chain smoking fucking weirdo. Anyway, but then there were the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, and in the 80s, I mean, John can basically tell you, but I mean, I don't know. For those of you who don't like wrestling, whatever. But like in the 80s, wrestling was, I mean, maybe it's just because I was a kid, but it feels like the WWF back in those old days. It was just like fucking, you know, everybody knew who Hulk Hogan was. Yeah. It was a Saturday morning cartoon show, you know. And then suddenly you turned on Fox, and there was these gorgeous ladies of wrestling, and like the first season of it was so low rent. It was like in a ballroom at the Riviera. There wasn't any lighting. It was just like fluorescent overhead lights, and like, but it was a bunch of ladies, and they were doing, you know, they were out there fucking throwing each other around a wrestling ring.
And the funny thing about it is, it was billed as a parody.
Yeah.
Like originally, when it was made, it was designed to be a parody. Like none of the women were wrestlers.
Yeah.
None of the women were associated with wrestling in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. They were actresses and models, and you know, actresses, fashion models, and other things like that. That then got brought in and told, "Hey, you're going to be a wrestler." And they actually got taught by one of the Guerrero brothers. I can't remember which brother it was. It wasn't Eddie. It wasn't Chavo. It was a different one. I can't remember the third. I always forget the third brother's name.
Okay.
But they were trained by, you know, and trained just in the very basics.
Yeah.
For those wondering, the character they used for that was Salty the Sack Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Played by one John Morrison. But yeah, so it was not designed to be the guy who wanted it loved wrestling. That part was actually very true in the show.
Right.
The guy who came up with it and funded it for the most part was also a coke fiend and ran out of money constantly.
Yeah.
You know, but he loved wrestling, and he wanted to do a wrestling promotion with women, but he didn't want to do it like, he wanted it to be different, so he didn't want female wrestlers, because female wrestlers were around at that time. They've been around since the 60s, but they were more like a sideshow kind of thing, like one of those like a thing you would see, like it kind of like midget wrestling. It's like it's one of those things, like it's not, you don't go there for that. That's the thing it's
like an exhibition before.
Exhibition, thank you. That's
yeah.
what, yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's the exhibition thing before the real thing. You're there. That's what women's wrestling was considered for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wanted to do something different. So they didn't want to use actual female wrestlers. So they just hired a bunch of actresses, taught them the basics,
yeah, and
then had them play like these weird parody, like racist fucking non-PC characters.
But we're also in the era of like the Iron Sheik, right?
True.
So, you know, there was a time where, but yeah, I take your meaning. But yeah,
and also this was a kids show. It was PG.
Yeah.
It when it first aired, it aired on Saturday mornings. Now when I watched it, it was airing like on Saturday evenings,
I
like
believe
at 1 a.m. in the morning or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Went during the raunchy, you know, stuff.
Right.
And I use quotes, you know, finger quotes in the air. No one can see them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
But no, there's a part in that Glow series where Mark Maron is like, kids are going to watch this, and then their dads are also going to watch this because it's a bunch of hot ladies in leotards throwing each other around. And I'm like, that's what happened in my household. It was like me and my dad watching the gorgeous ladies of wrestling for probably entirely different reasons, but you know, well, whatever.
Yeah.
But I thought the series was great.
Yeah, it was. It's really good.
I thought that I feel like those guys, and even Orange is the New Black, that they're one of the few series on Netflix that doesn't suffer from the bloat. Like I feel like every other Netflix series would have had 2 more episodes.
Well, yeah, every episode always like 12 or 13 episodes, whereas this was only 10.
Yeah, and there's like 10, 30-minute episodes, and oh my God, I want them to keep going because I want them to, in season 3, bring in the Andy Kaufman character.
Well, that wasn't Glow.
Well, that wasn't Glow?
No, that was not Glow.
Oh, okay, that was just...
That was actually like women's wrestling. That was actual legit women's wrestling.
Never mind. All right. Well, but still, that would be great.
But yeah, no. But no, I also thought, you know, where they ended the show, I thought was like, okay, if we never get a second season, I'm okay with this ending.
It's perfect. It does. This is beginning, middle, and boom.
This is the perfect ending that also leaves just enough open. Like, there's the one character that got a job doing something else. So is she going to stay with the show?
Right.
Also, the 2 main characters. Do they like each other or not? Will they be able to continue to like each other?
Yep.
You know, will this, you know, what's going to happen? Clearly, this is another issue that's going to need to, you know, like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, there's a bunch of unanswered questions that leave it open, but at the same time, they're not answers you need.
It's if it ends here, that's fine. It's a beginning, middle, end. Great. But yeah, I feel like anybody should go watch it, even if you're not a big fan of wrestling.
Oh, yeah,
I
definitely.
feel like it's
the
a
wrestling,
really good show.
Surprisingly, is a small bit of it. Like it's about wrestling in so much as the movie The Wrestler is about wrestling.
Yeah.
In that it's more about the characters, what they're doing, and they kind of gloss over a lot of the wrestling aspects of it.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. No, I thought it was really impressive, and I liked it. And the fact that it seemed like most of those ladies were doing a lot of the stunts in there.
No.
Like
that was actually something they did on purpose.
Yeah.
They stated that they wanted to... They didn't use stunt women.
Well, yeah, because there's like scenes of Allison Brie, like when she's showing off her routine, and it's just her running around doing a bunch of shit.
Because they felt that since the original people in Glow were just actresses playing parts, and that they were doing these things, that the current actresses should also be actresses in parts, doing those actual moves. Though they did teach them some moves that the Glow women never did,
right?
Which they said that was just kind of to heighten what they were doing.
Sure.
But yeah, they did have a bunch. There were a bunch of known wrestlers or people associated with wrestling that were in the show that I thought was really cool. Like one of the female wrestlers she played the wrestler. Oh God, what was?
What are you talking about? The family? The Machu Picchu?
No. Well, like the brothers were actual wrestlers. Brodus Clay and Carlito Colon. And then like there was, like I said, the Salty the Sack Johnson was played by John Morrison.
Right.
There was another wrestler played by Alex Riley, who was a former WWE guy. His nemesis he was playing a wrestler, and then his nemesis in the wrestling promotion was Joey Ryan, who most people may know him as the guy who wrestles with his dick. I don't know if I ever showed you that video.
No.
So it's like people will like grab his balls or whatever, and then he'll like flex, and then they'll flip over. Like he'll you don't ever see his actual penis or anything. Like it's literally like he'll grab them and put their hands on his dick, and then he'll squeeze, and then he'll like make them like crush their hands, and it's great. No, it's
God,
great.
I love
It's great.
wrestling.
Joey Ryan is great.
You can never convince me to actually watch it, but I fucking love. I just listen to John tell me stories about wacky, dumb shit that happens.
So
in
like
wrestling.
Joey Ryan is in it. Also, Christopher Daniels has a small part.
Yeah.
But the Welfare Queen.
Oh, okay.
Welfare Queen is a female wrestling that many fans may know. She wrestled on the Indies under the name Awesome Kong, and was in WWE under the name Kamala.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. Kamala? No, not Kamala. Oh, God, what the hell was her name? I don't fucking remember her name, but it's Awesome Kong. And she wrestled in TNA and a few others. She's awesome. And what's funny is they originally didn't want to hire any female wrestlers I had heard that they didn't want to hire any female wrestlers for the female parts because they wanted people who were novices so that they would show that in the show.
Right.
But apparently her audition was so good that they went, no, we want her to be part of the show. Because part of the problem is they would bring in like actual female wrestlers, and they wouldn't be able to convey the I don't know how to do this move properly. Like they do it and it'd just be perfect.
Because they've been doing it for so long. Yeah.
But she came in and was like, it would do it perfectly. Like, oh no, we need you to act like you don't know how to do it. And she's like, okay. And then she would do it, and it would totally look like she didn't know how to do it.
Okay.
And she's also one of those people that when she she became a reality TV star and like on one of those losing weight shows.
Okay.
And she said that she was a big fan of wrestling and always wanted to get into it. Like this was later in life kind of thing. And then she decided to like keep like bulking up and actually like getting and actually learning how to wrestle, and actually broke into wrestling through that.
Cool.
She's really cool, and she's fucking great in the show.
Yeah.
Mark Maron is great in the show.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody in the show is great. Like I
didn't have really any problems with it. I mean, that was the thing. As I watched it, I was just like beginning, middle, end. The characters,
I have friends who hate wrestling.
Yeah.
Who actually watched that and went, oh man, that was awesome. Like I really liked that show. Like it was really good. Like I don't like wrestling at all, and that was a lot of fun, and I really highly recommend people watch it, kind of thing. So yeah, like if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. Go watch it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And then watch the documentary.
That too. All right. Well, you know what? This might be a bit shorter podcast because there's not a lot this week.
I rambled a little bit.
What's that?
That's why I rambled a little bit.
That's fine. Yeah. Well, we're recording on Wednesday, so if anything comes out after that, we'll address it next week, obviously. But yeah, this might just be a snappier podcast than usual because whatever.
We say that, and then we end up recording for 2 hours.
Well, there's always that. But I tell you what. I got feelings. Let's start because I got some feelings. So, motherfucking piece of goddamn shit Nintendo announced the Super NES Classic. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Super NES Classic is coming. It's coming this September 29th. It's going to be $80, and it's going to have 21 preloaded titles. Those titles are going to be Contra 3, Donkey Kong Country, sure, Earthbound, great, Final Fantasy 3, great, F-Zero, great, Kirby Superstar, Kirby Dream Course, A Link to the Past, Mega Man X, Secret of Mana, Star Fox, Super Street Fighter 2, Turbo Fighting, Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting, Super Castlevania 4, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario RPG, Super Mario World, Super Metroid, Super Punch-Out, and Yoshi's Island, and the as never released before Star Fox 2, which was developed and then scrapped because there's a whole Did You Know gaming on it that I watched that's great, where basically the end result is it was going to come out too close that Nintendo felt to the launch of the N64, and they wanted a clean break with 3D graphics between the SNES and the N64. Then the N64 got delayed, but they shelved the game anyway. It was completed, fully completed, and then they just never put it out. It's being put out on here. Also, I'm going to say some good things because I'm about to say some bunch of bad things afterwards.
I think it's a good list. First of all,
it's a fantastic lineup. I mean, Contra 3, and everybody knows how I feel about Kirby, whatever. But
Super Castlevania 4 is fucking awesome.
Super Castlevania 4.
That's like my favorite Castlevania.
This is what you want, right?
Yeah.
Star Fox, Mario RPG, the fact that Final Fantasy 3 is in there, which is great. It was the best SNES. Well, it's my favorite SNES JRPG. I fucking love that game.
Mega Man X.
Yeah, Mega Man X. Earthbound, that's great. Yeah. That's a title that they did it. They did it good. They did a good job.
They
Zelda, Link to the Past, great. This little fucking piece of shit will keep you occupied for a long period of time. The bad thing, the fucking
also it comes with 2 controllers.
Which is probably why the price is a little bit higher. I hope have they talked about whether they're going to
make the cords longer?
Make the cords way longer.
No one said anything.
Because they need to make the cords way longer.
No one said anything about that.
Or if you don't want to make the cords way longer, I don't think it would be super hard for them to to throw a Bluetooth module and a real small Bluetooth stack in there to let me, because I've got a Bluetooth SNES controller that's wireless, and if I could just sync it to the thing, that would be great. But in any case, the problem is they're and I'm going off the handle here because I'm still fucking salty about the NES Classic. They've said that they are producing more than the NES Classic, than the 3.2 million or whatever NES Classics, or 2.3 million. I can't ever remember that they ran. But they're also doing one run, and then they're not going to continue producing this thing. And I just don't know why Nintendo does this shit to I would have rather, instead of them putting the time and effort into putting this out, whether they would have just taken another year and put out 2 more runs of the NES Classic to give those of us that wanted one a chance to buy one. I just don't understand why that math is so fucking hard for Nintendo. Because especially with the fact that this has an unreleased game on it. Star Fox 2 has never been released.
Yeah.
I feel like
that's going to make this doubly, especially people who are fans of Star Fox, that's going to make this console doubly hard to get.
Yeah. So here's my thing about it. I am willing at this point, because of the last one, because I know Nintendo, and because I do want one of these things. I fucking love the SNES is my bread and butter. I have an SNES, though.
Same here.
Right? I'm more than willing to, when this goes on pre-order, to, when I go to GameStop, put in a pre-order for it. What I'm not willing to do is set up a fucking Google alert because the pre-orders sell out in 45 minutes. But I feel like that's what's going to happen, is that they're going to go on sale, and then they're going to go on pre-order, and then in an hour, they're going to be totally gone. And, all right. It's not a problem for me. I would want one of these, but I bought the Raspberry Pi. I made the fucking console, right? It's got every SNES and NES game on it, right? It's not technically legal, but whatever. I'm not selling it to people on the streets or anything. But what I really feel bad for, the people that I really feel bad for in this situation and with the NES Classic, John, is children.
Yeah.
because this is perfect to introduce kids. This is a cheap way to throw a bunch of classic old games that kids might not get a chance to play otherwise, that are hard to get access to. And it's just like, you take this thing, you throw it in a kid's bedroom with their TV, and you're just like, hey, Johnny, here's a bunch of games, right? Like, here's fucking all the games from my childhood. And like, parents and kids, and they could be like, oh, yeah. I mean, the NES is so old at this point that it's like people have kids, can play a game, and have fun together. But when it becomes this thing where people buy them out completely, and then it's like the only way to get them is to pay scalper $500 on eBay for what's essentially just a glorified emulator, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. Like, Nintendo's supposed to be this like friendly company and everything, but like they have to know at this point that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And if they don't have plans to do 4 or 5 runs depending on how well this sells, then it's just creating a scarcity in the market. I don't know. How do you feel about this? I
mean, I think we talked about that even I said like they're gonna release an SNES Classic. It's gonna happen.
I don't think that either one of us. I don't think anybody out there. I think that after this,
there's a part of me that's like, oh man, I would totally love to get this when it comes out. Like, there's a part of me it's like, but at the same time, I know it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, well, that's not going to happen at all. I would love to own this because I would love to play Star Fox 2.
Yeah,
I would love to be able to pop this console out, and because I mean most of the other games, the games that I would actually want to own, I either own on the virtual console for my Wii or Wii U,
right?
Or I own physical copies of them.
Yeah.
And I can play on my Retron 5 connected to my HD through that. And yay, I can play that game on its original console. Like, yeah, but not everyone's going to have that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't have Star Fox 2, and I'll never be able to play Star Fox 2 unless I get it on this, or someone pirates it, and I don't want that.
Yeah. I can actually see, like, into the comment section that, Nintendo has announced that they're going to be putting when the pay service for online kicks in on the Switch, that they're going to be putting old games out for you to play, but they're also going to be time limited. So it's like, it's so frustrating, and that's what it is that I don't mean to just shit on Nintendo, but it's like, on the same time, you engender anger on my part when it's like, when you make it hard for me to fucking give you my money. That's where I start to have a real problem with, I had this problem. I never had any problems when Doctor Who would come out, right? And it used to be that, like, way back before the BBC America stuff, it's like Doctor Who would come out, and then they'd be like, well, you'll be able to rent it when it comes out in 9 months at on Blu-ray in the United States. And I'm just like, well, go fuck yourself. Like, don't make me excited for a thing and then tell me that I can't have it. And in this case, I don't know. I don't see a good reason. I need somebody to tell me the good reason why they would continue to do this.
Well, yeah, you also, I don't know if you've also heard the other news story combined with this is the Super Famicom.
You mean this news story?
Oh, is that what you're going to bring up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, in Japan, I actually kind of like this better.
It looks cooler.
The outer shell looks like the Super Famicom as opposed to the SNES, which they had a slightly different outside, and then they actually swapped out a few games. So the Japanese version doesn't have Earthbound, Kirby's Dream Course, Super Castlevania 4, and Super Punch-Out, but they're getting Fire Emblem, Mystery of the Emblem, Legend of the Mystical Ninja, Panel de Pon with Tetris Attack, and Super Soccer. And it's funny because I like the way this looks better, but I actually prefer the game lineup from the American version. Like, Mystical Ninja is okay. Fire Emblem might be kind of interesting, but yeah, I don't know. I'm going to try, but I'm just not willing to, put my life on hold and get all crazy about just like, oh shit, I got to, I got to get home and pre-order that SNES before they're out of stock.
I'm not going to hold my breath.
I don't know. Come on, Nintendo. Come on. I mean, just last week we had a story about a Nintendo executive that was in an interview that said that, like, the Switch shortage, they're not trying to create a scarcity. They didn't anticipate that the market would be hot for this thing. But that seems so stupid to me because they've got demonstrable examples, of times when the market was very hot for Nintendo equipment, and yet they're not prepared. I mean, even if it's the sort of thing where you're going to have a limited run, but you had everything set up that if you needed to pull the trigger, then you could get like another big chunk. Because, I mean, I got an alert saying that Switches were back in stock at, I think it was like Newegg, but that was like 2 weeks ago. But I mean, yeah, they're still hard to get. Anyway. Next up, let's talk a little Ubisoft.
Okay. What's going on with Ubisoft?
This is a story that's come up a few different times, but Vivendi is trying to buy Ubisoft.
Oh, this is still going on.
Yep. And the latest news is that apparently the Guimauve family, who founded Ubisoft, is trying to raise money and buy enough controlling stock to block Vivendi from actually taking over Ubisoft.
Okay. Well, good on them.
Yeah. Currently, they have a 13.6% share of the company, and let's see, Vivendi has 27% of the share capital.
Jesus.
So, yeah. It kind of sucks because I was actually looking up. I was thinking about this before, and I was like, Vivendi, like, isn't a super evil company, right? Because blah, blah, blah. But I realized that what I was talking about was technically Vivendi Universal.
Yeah.
That got absorbed into the Activision Blizzard merger. Because Vivendi Universal used to own the rights to the Blizzard stuff. They were like the publisher for Blizzard before they were absorbed. And like Sierra Online and a few other places. Like they actually had a fair amount of decent quality stuff. Vivendi owns Gameloft.
Yeah. Well, it's... yeah, like, well, if Vivendi did own, at one time own Blizzard.
Yeah.
That was the same. Vivendi and Vivendi Universal are the same company.
Oh, okay.
The difference is that Activision bought out and kicked out Vivendi.
Oh.
And then said, yeah, we don't need you to tell us how to make games. We know how to make games.
Okay.
Because apparently, from what I had heard, is that Vivendi would, like, to give you an example, like a game would be worked on, and it wasn't. Let's talk about. I'm going to use Titan, or what ended up becoming Overwatch, as an example. Now, this is not what happened under any circumstance, because Vivendi was gone long before this happened.
Yeah.
But situations were happening where that a company, whether it be Blizzard or some developer in Activision, would be working on a game, and they would get to a point where, like, you know what? This isn't working. We're just going to shelve this. Vivendi would step in and go, no, you've spent too much money. You can't do that. Release it. Or they'd be like, well, we like where you're going with this game, but instead of creating this game where all the content is in the game, we want you to cut out a portion of the game and release it as DLC. Or we want you to like they were
some evil video game executive bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the hate that Activision got, which, don't get me wrong, Activision did a lot of stuff on their own that is totally warranted. There were some things that were actually Vivendi's doing, which is why Activision gave them the boot.
Can we take a brief moment, just a minute out of this conversation, talking about Activision doing bullshit, and can we all just breathe in really fast and breathe out and realize that you breathe the air of a world where online passes are no longer a thing.
Yes.
Because that was, 5 years where like Activision, EA, and a bunch of people got into that.
There was a game that did release some type of online pass a little while back.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a season pass. It was like an online pass, and it was like, what the fuck? And like everyone I know that saw that game, they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. And that used to be, I mean, I'm not asking you to go to Inside Baseball, but like that used to be a fucking hell nightmare when it came back in the days when I was using GameFly, because it's like, I'm going to rent a game from GameFly, but then I'm going to have to pay $9 to play it online. And it's like, what the fucking fuck. So I'm glad that they finally got rid of that, and I don't know if that was part of them kicking out Vivendi, but the reason I was thinking about it, though, is because I was wondering, like, whether Ubisoft could use a management that would maybe kick him in the pants a little bit on a few things. Specifically, the whole, like, Ubisoft making the same game over and over again with different skins on it, the way that, Ghost Recon and Assassin's Creed and The Division and The Crew and blah, blah, blah are all, towers and unlock a thing and do a mission and, but I don't think that this is the company to do that.
Yeah, I don't.
This just sounds like they're going to quintuple down on DLC and paid content and stuff like that.
Like, how can we nickel and dime for everything?
Yeah. So, pray for the Guillemots, everybody, because they need it. Speaking of places on the internet that you can pray, no, that doesn't work. So how about Rocket League, everybody?
Sure.
Yeah. So Rocket League is getting into the esports business.
Weren't they already?
Not, well, sort of. But they actually signed a deal that they are coming to the Summer X Games as they're having the first, like, I believe it's the first official Rocket League like international tournament at the Summer X Games this year. Woo, X Games!
Extreme.
It's pretty extreme. Little remote control cars are batting that
video
soccer
game.
ball around. Yeah,
yeah, inside of a video game.
Yeah, it's going to have a $75,000 prize pool, which for esports is a little bit, but it'll be streamed live on ESPN3, their online channel, July 14th through the 16th. So if you want to really piss some people off, go down to your local sports bar and tell them to turn on ESPN3. Well, it's probably not available, so it's just probably on the internet. But you'd be like, "Hey man, I want to watch that Rocket League while I eat my wings. Turn on Rocket League. I want to watch
on
that."
The Ocho.
Yeah. That's interesting. I sometimes I wonder, like, when you see companies like, how a bunch of EA's E3 this year was like kind of devoted to like Madden and sports, like esports. I feel like it's super close to just breaking into the actual mainstream, or maybe it already is, and I just don't watch
when
cable.
Madden catered to fantasy football people?
Yeah, that was like 2 years ago when they had like, and we integrated with the biggest esports app, or the biggest fantasy football app ever. What if you could? Oh man, what if they integrated
fantasy Madden football?
No, what if they integrated Madden with one of those bullshit like pay sites where you could like set your team up and then win real money when your team wins, but then like inside of Madden. God damn, that'd just be like a that's
an Inception level of not real things happening about a real sport.
Oh, I'm just thinking it's like a microtransaction circle jerk. It's just like you got to pay for the players to put them into the thing, and then you could pay to. God. So speaking of esports and being online, and speaking of Blizzard, Blizzard is also, they're joining up, specifically Blitch and Twizzard are getting together, everybody. It sounds like fucking like elves from dwarves.
Blitch and Twizzard sounds like like character, like a weird like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern for like World of Warcraft or something.
Or something really filthy. I gave her the old Blitch and Twizzard last night. It was
Yeesh.
To take 2 showers after that.
Sick fuck.
No, Blizzard and Twitch are pairing up. Blizzard is going to be having the official, Overwatch Apex League, Premier Series, Hearthstone Championship, and Global Games, StarCraft 2 World Championship Series, Heroes of the Storm Global Championship, and World of Warcraft Arena Championship. I didn't know that there was a World of Warcraft esports thing.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing here is that the part of this was Twitch Prime members will have access to golden loot boxes for Overwatch.
Oh, nice.
When they watch this stuff, which has a guaranteed legendary item. I don't know. I've never had a golden loot box, and I'm not special.
Yeah.
But
never had them either. So
yeah. That sounds like a pretty cool deal. I don't know. Does anybody actually watch Heroes of the Storm? I feel like everybody's just watching Dota, right? Nobody
I don't know.
Really gives a shit.
I don't watch esports.
Okay.
I mean, nowadays when I'm watching Twitch, I'm either watching the current MST3K marathon that's going on right now, or I'm watching wrestling because now there's a local wrestling promotion that is the first wrestling promotion to ever
just broadcast on Twitch.
It's actually a Twitch partner.
Oh, okay.
And like if you like donate, you get like exclusive like Twitch icons and special broadcasts and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it's Wrestle Circus.
Can you think of anything that would make you watch? Can you think of a game that something that would be interesting enough that you would watch?
An esport?
Yeah. Like, what if there was a WWE 2K? What was the last one? 17?
Yeah, 17.
Like championship, like title, like thing.
I mean, I might be because I know that there was one guy who actually ran in the GM mode of the game of one of the games or whatever. They actually ran their own promotion where they would sit there and they would actually like run it like an actual wrestling promotion where all the characters would just be fake made up characters, and then they would decide who wins and who loses. Like they would actually like book it like an actual legit wrestling promotion.
Okay, and
then they would every Friday night they would stream a show, and it would literally be just all in game, and it would play out and. And it was like there was actually one instance where like the fans because of like he would actually change his booking on the fly.
Okay.
And it was one of those things where you actually because there's no way to say in the game like I want this person to win this match. You have to actually play the match, but you also have to keep the matches interesting. So he had to play as one of the characters or get like a friend to play with him, and they would actually have to have a good back and forth, and like they would actually play it like an actual wrestling match. And then they would even get like actual like commentators and stuff to actually commentate over everything.
It's almost like a machinima.
Yeah. Like I've watched a few of those.
Okay,
but I don't know if I'd watch like an actual like esport version of it.
Okay.
Because I don't like the online for those games.
Well, that's all for esports. Let's talk. We don't have that much information, but there was a little bit of information that came out this week about Anthem.
Oh, okay.
For those of you who don't remember, Anthem is the BioWare's next game that looks like the Destiny and Mass Effect had a fucking weird baby, and there's also monsters and shit in it. So apparently. In a recent interview, the BioWare Edmonton general manager Aaron Flynn said that the game is going to be science fantasy. So while Mass Effect remains their, quote, hard science fiction, this is going to be more like a science fantasy kind of Star Wars kind of doing stuff and blowing stuff up.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Good for them.
I do think that this one quote kind of sucks, where the Flynn is like, Mass Effect is more our real hardcore science fiction IP. This one is much more about just having fun in a game world that is lush and exotic and really sucks you in. And I'm just like, oh, is that why Mass Effect Andromeda wasn't very fun? Was because the emphasis was on hard science fiction and not actually just having fun in a video game world.
Yeah, it also sounds like Anthem was like, you're going to have fun in a fictional video game world. That tells me you have no story.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm real leery about this motherfucker. Like
anytime a developer said it's about having fun with your friends in a fictional world, Crackdown is an example of that. Like I love Crackdown. Don't get me wrong. I fucking love Crackdown. I've been on record of loving Crackdown.
Yeah.
But there's very little story in Crackdown, and to find your enjoyment, it's literally you have to do stupid shit to try to break the game.
Okay.
Like that's where people find enjoyment is just doing stupid shit to try to break the game.
Okay.
In both the original Crackdown, like that was kind of.
And see, let's break off on a tangent here for a second, because I don't understand then why Crackdown has. Like the people that talk about Crackdown talk about how much they love Crackdown. If it's just about doing crazy shit, I'm just like, I don't know, Red Faction, Saints Row. I mean, like there's plenty of games where you can do crazy shit. Again,
you got to remember, Crackdown 1 and even Crackdown 2 came out before Saints Row 4.
Okay, GTA San Andreas. I mean, like, there have been open world games where you can do a bunch of crazy shit.
Well, not like that. Like this was like takes GTA San Andreas and then break the physics of the engine.
Okay.
To where you're literally leaping across. Basically, it's Saints Row 4 is what Crackdown was, but with less story. Like, Crackdown had less story than what Saints Row 4 is.
Okay.
And and I even think it's funny because a lot of people are like, who went to E3 this year, a lot of reporters or everything are like, yeah, I played Crackdown. There were some problems with it, but otherwise, it was Crackdown. It was a lot of fun. Then I went and played Agents of Mayhem. Holy shit, they just fucking kicked Crackdown's ass.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I'm wondering is, like, when you say it's like Saints Row 4 but without the story, and I'm like, but the story was the best part of Saints Row 4. Like,
no, I agree with you.
Like, I mean, yeah, it was fun to leap across buildings, but it was fun to leap across buildings so I could get to the fucking They Live fight with Keith David, right?
Yeah.
Like, or the Metal Gear parody mission, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So,
I agree with you totally. But yeah, that's kind of the thing that has me worried about Crackdown 3 is because the big thing that they were purporting that was going to set it apart, which was the total environment destructibility, is gone.
Oh, yeah.
They've killed it because they decided that people didn't want a game that was always online, so we need a way for people to play it offline. So we had to remove the big thing that we had announced for this game that would have set it apart from everything. We had to remove that, and now it's kind of like, yeah, but are you relevant anymore?
Well, it's also, we probably went over this when E3 was going on, but it's also telling, like, you can kind of read between the lines when you look at the trailer that they had at E3 that was just like, Terry Crews is going to come out and yell at you, and then we're going to have a montage of a bunch of shit blowing up. Crackdown, everybody. And it's like, but all right, I like Terry Crews, but I mean, you need to tell me something. Like, I would have expected, one, after its absence last year, an actual stage demo, and two, more information about the story than just like, bang, boom,
What's funny is you can actually sum up the story, the entire story, beginning, middle, and end, in 3 sentences for the first game.
Yeah.
You're an agent. You're fighting drug cartels. In the end, you're the bad guy.
Okay.
You actually funded those drug cartels. They wouldn't be there without you.
Okay. Spoiler alert, John. You haven't even
I'm
played
just saying.
Crackdown.
Well, like that's the first game. Like that's literally all the story there is. There is no other story. It's like you're an agent. You're told to go do these, like, stop these gangs.
Yeah.
You defeat the gangs. You find out that your group put them in power so that you could then do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then the sequel is kind of the same thing all over again.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm going to play it when it comes out. I just don't get it because I didn't play them. I don't have any nostalgia for it, and nothing that they've shown. I guess that's the thing, is that they seem to be banking real hard on the fact that fans of Crackdown want a new Crackdown. As somebody who never played it, I look at it and go, why yes Crackdown? Because none of the marketing materials that they've put out so far have really told me anything to get me excited outside of, like, it seems like you have to already be wanting a new Crackdown game in order to be interested.
Yeah. No, I agree.
All right, so let's finish this up. We only got a few more of these, and then most of them are pretty short. Playdead, the company that made Limbo and Inside, is 2 people, Dino Patti, and then a movie animator called Chris Olsen, and Dino Patti has left Playdead. So the 2 of them, I believe, are going to be staffing both. Dino Patti has created a new company called Jump Ship. I didn't even get that until right now.
That's hilarious.
Apparently, he had a problem with a business partner and left, and then both of them are going to be, like, staffing back up each one of those businesses independently. What that means for the future of people who are fans of Limbo and Inside, I don't know. Hopefully, it means that we don't have to wait for another 4 years to get another game like Limbo or Inside, because I love Inside and everything, but, like, fucking Amanda and I beat it in 3 sequential Saturdays, and, like, it took a long time to get those 3 sequential Saturdays. So, SteamWorld Dig 2 is announced, which is great because SteamWorld Dig was awesome.
Yeah, you like SteamWorld Dig.
It's great. Yeah, and it's going to debut. We already knew it was coming to the Switch first, but it's also on the PS4 and the Steam shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
So very shortly thereafter, which is great because SteamWorld Dig is a super fun game. If you haven't already played it, it's on just about every platform out there. Go buy it. It's just the kind of 2D Minecraft with a weird story and a bunch of charming robot cowboys and shit. So, all right. Before we finish up the news, last week, people got on me a little bit because we talked about I ran my mouth a lot about Rockstar and the mods and the single-player mods getting shut down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people pointed out that this was Take-Two and not Rockstar, and that I shouldn't have been slagging on Rockstar for this because it was Take-Two that was literally the ones that were doing this. So I apologize for that. You know what? I like to say I'm wrong. I was wrong. Didn't have a lot of time for the podcast. Didn't dig into it probably as deeply as I should have. This is Take-Two, not Rockstar. Rockstar remains cool, and fucking let's not beat on them. Also, there was an update a few days ago after that news came out where Rockstar apparently put pressure on Take-Two to kind of ease off, and they now have an official policy that says it was on their question and answer page with question: are PC single player mods allowed? Answer: after discussions with Take-Two has agreed that it generally will not take legal action against third-party projects involving Rockstar's PC games that are single player, non-commercial, and respect the intellectual property rights of third parties. This does not apply to multiplayer or online services, tools, files, etc. Yada yada yada. Basically, formalizing a policy that if you're making, as long as your tool doesn't let people get into the online part of the game, you're fine, and do whatever the fuck you want to, but you do have to have a hard line there. So that's pretty much it. I mean, last week I was going on and on around my mouth and whatever, but so sorry about that, and retracted. And last but certainly not least, I talked a lot of crap about Nintendo this week, but I also kind of like this story where apparently Hasbro is making a Nintendo Monopoly.
Oh yeah,
yeah. A Super Mario based Monopoly.
Aren't there boss battles and shit in that?
Yeah. At first I was just like, oh, it's just Monopoly, because normally when they make Star Wars Monopoly, it's just Monopoly, but they renamed everything.
Yeah.
But this seems like it's different.
They completely rewrote the game. There's power ups and boss battles.
Yeah. So it's got the traditional Monopoly franchise, and then it's this from Game Inform article says fan favorites such as Mario, Donkey Kong, Princess Peach, and Yoshi appear as character tokens, each bringing a unique power-up ability that introduces new strategic elements to the game. For example, landing on the Superstar space activates Peach's Superstar ability, allowing her to collect rent from the bank, which is a little weird. Monopoly Gamer also adds a power-up die, which when activated provides boosts for players as they battle familiar bosses and compete against one another.
I got a question. Can you read to me the tokens that they have again? Who are the characters?
So I think that Mario, Donkey Kong, Princess Peach, and Yoshi. But this is the only downside of this whole thing. It would not be a Nintendo whatever, because that's who comes with the game. But then for $2.99, you could buy additional packs that have Toad, Luigi, what's her face? I'm
gonna say this right now.
Tanuki Mario, Diddy Kong.
The fact that they put Donkey Kong in there instead of Luigi under the main set,
yeah,
they can go fuck themselves.
I got an email that we're not going to read that was just the contents of the email were like, "Dear Jeff, what video game character's mouth do you want to pee in?" And I was like, nobody. Kind of Luigi, but other than that, nobody.
Go fuck yourself.
I know.
No, but anyway. It's seriously, Donkey Kong instead of fucking Luigi?
Yeah.
Or even fucking Toad?
Yep.
Go fuck yourself.
Yep. Well, I don't know.
Put him in your little extras pack where you can get Tanuki Suit Mario and Fire Flower Mario. I don't fucking care, but god damn it.
Yeah.
Put people in the actual Super Mario games in the fucking board.
I don't know, man. Nothing surprises me at this point, including the fact that this version of Monopoly has DLC. It has expansion packs. Why? I don't know. I don't know anymore. And with that, we're done. I'm gonna have to go reevaluate my life. But stick around. We'll be back for part 2.
Yeah.
And I've gotten over it, John. I've passed through.
Good, because we got questions.
I've accepted my fate, and yes, let's get on with the questions. mail@rageslick.com is the email address, and we didn't actually get a lot of questions. I want to make sure people say, get some questions in, but bring in your questions.
We got a whole slew of questions that can be asked that then can destroy you.
Yes, exactly.
All over again.
So we're picking up some of the ones that we had to skip because we had so many of them, because we had a week off of E3, and then I just had a lot of questions built up. So this first one comes in from Jujitsu, who says, "Hello, Ragecasters. Knowing this is all speculation, these are my thoughts on the upcoming God of War. I think one of the things that made the original trilogy so great is that it was one of the only games where you got to play as a true villain. It was so refreshing to not be the hero or even anti-hero, but someone who gave zero fucks. It was a risk that paid off. With the apparent shift in Kratos' character, do you think this is the result of a natural character shift the developers wanted to explore, or a reaction to the negative reviews the third game got where Kratos was too bad? Or maybe both. I wouldn't call this a character betrayal, but I do think transforming your protagonist in such an abrupt manner like this may appeal to the masses, but may also suffer from too much familiarity with other games like The Last of Us. What do you think? And then there's a PS here. My prediction that totally won't happen. Kratos' son is a red herring and gets killed in the first 5 minutes, and the camera pans back to where it was in the original games, and Kratos tears shit up. This is from Jiu-Jitsu.
I don't think he was a villain in the original games.
I understand what.
I mean, I get it. I get what he's saying.
Yeah.
But I never saw him as a villain. Like, I saw him as a dude whose life had been fucked with by the gods to the point of that he's like, you know what? It was kind of what was it? Falling Down. Was that the movie?
With Michael Douglas?
Yeah. Where it's just the guy who just...
One bad day?
Yeah, the one bad day thing, you know, and he just was striking back, you know, kind of thing. Now, mind you, Michael Douglas in that movie is totally the bad guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, that's apropos. But I mean,
he's kind of... I feel like when they say here is like... one of the only games where you play as a true villain and not the hero or even anti-hero. I feel he's an anti-hero.
Oh, he's totally an anti-hero. That's what I mean. Like, he's totally an anti-hero. I mean, he doesn't do things the right way, but he's still doing them like...
He just falls into the class of protagonist that, like, you know, doesn't give a fuck about collateral damage, right? Like, he doesn't. He's fighting against. I mean, technically, what Ares is the villain in the first game, and he's not doing good shit. Ares is a bad guy, and Kratos has been manipulated into fighting him, but he is still fighting the bad guy.
Yeah, and then to fight him, he ends up again saying "fuck the collateral damage" and ends up causing something that causes an even bigger problem for the next two games.
And then, you know, in the second one, you've got Zeus, who starts the game by killing Kratos. And then the whole thing is Kratos working with the help of the Titans, working his way back up out of the underworld to the Fates to change his fate to be able to face down Zeus, because it turns out that Zeus was the architect of the reason that he got all fucked up in the first place, right? And then the third one just seems like, that's also Zeus, but that it's just like... That one they really did kind of ratchet up the...
Well, that one tried to connect everything.
Well, I felt like in that one they ratcheted up the, like, in order to solve this puzzle, you have to kill the goddess of nature and then destroy all nature in the world, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, the whole thing was that all the gods were corrupted because in the first game, Kratos opened Pandora's box, and what was released from Pandora's box was corruption.
Oh,
and it corrupted all the gods to be even more evil than they were.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, Hercules was not a good dude. That's why Perseus was not a good dude. That's why all these people who were from Greek mythology were kind of bad people, even though in previous incarnations of movies, literature, and whatever, these characters are considered heroes.
You know, that brings up an interesting question, though, about the fact that there is a lot of there are a lot of stories out of the Greek pantheon where, like, you know, like Zeus specifically is kind of a rapist fuckface. So,
no, he's totally a terrible person.
Yeah,
terrible god.
But I don't know. I mean, I think that Jiu-Jitsu. I think that what you are honing in on is the stakes, the way that the stakes in God of War were so high that, you know, Kratos doesn't just come back from the dead. Kratos literally goes and kills the Fates so that he can rewrite reality so he didn't die, so he can face down Zeus again. Like, which is a very Greek idea.
And he's not doing it for the betterment of the world. He's not doing it for... I mean, he's doing it for his own reasons. It's very... You know, like, I'm doing this for my own purposes. But even in the games, they're like, nah, he has to do this. These god, like the voiceover for all the games, like the female, the old lady who's voicing, I forget which character that is.
Was it Athena?
It was like the old lady voice. But even she says in the thing, like, Kratos doing this has to do this because the Greek gods' time is over. They have to end. Something has to bring about that end. So in that way, he is doing good for the betterment of society, but he's not doing it for that. He's doing it because he was wronged and fuck them.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, as far as tonally shifting the character, I actually like that because I don't like it. I mean, there have technically there have been 6 God of War games because there was the PSP trilogy that then was released on the PS3, and then you also had the original God of War trilogy.
Yeah, and the PSP trilogy was a prequel.
Yeah,
which didn't make sense because
it's just whatever. I blur. But I think that having Kratos yet once again be all like motherfucker. Also, we don't know that he might go totally, halfway through the game he might shave off that beard. He might pull a reverse Max Payne, is the way I like to call it, and shave that
hair on his head.
Yeah, shave that beard off, grow some hair, and then he turns into crazy. Can you imagine what Kratos would look like with hair on his head? Yeah. My brain refuses to conjure that image.
Probably like Vin Diesel in the movie Boiler Room, or Christopher Judge, who is the voice of Kratos in this game in the later seasons of Stargate SG-1, where he actually grew his hair out.
Okay,
looks weird.
I don't know. I feel that for better or worse, this is the thing that we talk about all the time. If you just make the same God of War game over and over again, like you're eventually going to start to lose people because they're just going to be like, I played this game. Like now he's out there fucking cracking Norse gods' heads instead of Greek gods' heads, but he's still just the same old fucking, I'm so angry, I'm Kratos.
Well, I also felt like, and here's the other thing, especially with the third game, more so than 1 or 2, the God of War games were very much a mirror to the types of games that were popular at that time. If you actually kind of look at it, I mean, yeah, it pioneered it in a lot of ways, but it was kind of almost, in some ways, mocking what was going, not mocking, but just kind of invoking that, I don't know, just like that anti-hero kind of thing. That was kind of the trend, not just in comics, but in a lot of stuff going on at that time when it came out. But the third game even like went so far as to use mechanics from other games for puzzles. Like there was the fucking Guitar Hero puzzle. There was the Echochrome puzzle.
Sure.
There was the fucking Portal puzzle in one of the games. Like that's something that's been kind of in God of War. So for a new God of War to kind of emulate games like, God damn it! Now I can't even think of the game that he just fucking mentioned in the thing, the Uncharted.
Last of Us.
Like to emulate games like Last of Us and Uncharted and like those types of games, which are like the games of this generation. I feel it's kind of appropriate because that's kind of what God of War has done.
Yeah. It also tonally makes a certain amount of sense with,
he was not angry anymore by the end of it. He was dying, but he wasn't like, his rage had been subsided.
Right.
And now what do you do with a man who was so angry that he killed all the fucking gods, and now his anger's gone? Like, what do you do with him after that?
Yeah, I mean, like,
does he stay angry or does he change?
Well, character-wise, like in the second game, they established that like Zeus was the architect of his family getting killed.
Yeah,
which was the whole reason why he was pissed in the first place. Like, he was a warrior, but he was not like irrationally destroy the world pissed until like his family was killed, and then he just kind of lost faith in like all in war or whatever. Well, by the end of the third game, that wrong. There ain't nobody left on the shit list. The shit list has been, all the names have been crossed out. So
I mean, like in most literature, where a character like that who is just full of anger and full of revenge, once they've gotten their revenge, what's the next step? But usually in those stories, the next step is they go somewhere to try to be secluded by themselves and just live a quiet life because the thing that wronged them is no longer around. And then usually something fucks that up, and then they either get pissed off and deal with it, or something else happens and they deal with it in a different way. Like maybe I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah. This whole game going to be a setup where like at the end of the game, Odin tricks Kratos into killing his own son, and it's like, shit, I got like 4 more games as he kills all the entirety of the Norse pantheon.
No, it's going to turn out that the kid is going to end up being like one of the pantheon members of the Norse pantheon. Like,
yeah.
But he's still Kratos' son or whatever, but I don't even know if he's actually Kratos' son. But
I'll be real honest here. Like, I think the new God of War game looks good, but like if they had just been like, here's a brand new game that's not God of War, and I would have been like, okay, well, I'm interested in that too. Like, God of War has kind of run its course for me, that they really did nail that. I mean, it's still a great game.
Yeah, no, it's great.
I kind of wish that what they had done instead of this, though, or maybe before they did this, was to actually go back and take God of War 1 and God of War 2 and then put them in the God of War 3 engine on the PS4, because they made the God of War 3 like HD version for the PS4, and it looks really good. You know, Grant and I played it a while back, and I kind of just wish that there was a version of the original God of War where they went back and upgraded all the graphics, and I could play that, because
it kind of did and released it on the PS3. But
yeah, I just wish they would put it into the engine, because that's a game that I feel like still holds up. Like, you can still go back and play God of War. It's not so old that it doesn't hold up. And that they just went back and kind of, because God of War 2 is really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I think all three of them are very interesting games. I think 3, in my opinion, is probably the least interesting of the 3, but I have my issues with it because where some of them may have taken some puzzle ideas from other games, like the first 2 may have like taken a puzzle idea, 3 was really egregious with it, to the point of like it was almost winking at the camera like, hey, remember this game?
Yeah.
We're using a puzzle that's based on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, our next question comes in from our buddy Ruskells.
Fucking Guitar Hero.
Who says, Dear Jeff and John, I have 6 short questions for you to choose from. So call out a random number, roll some dice, or pick one at random. John,
2.
Pick one. Okay. 2. Will Crackdown 3 suffer for taking so long to release, or will it manage to win people over and hold off Agents of Mayhem? You answered that question already.
Yeah, it's like I think it's going to suffer. I think it's people are going to play Agents of Mayhem and are going to be like, holy shit, this is a fun game with a crazy story and crazy characters. And because that's part of the thing, is that I think the Saints Row 4 on its own, Saints Row 4 out Crackdown.
Sure.
Like, it took everything that made Crackdown great and improved on it to the point of that it is a better game than Crackdown 1 or 2. And I'm just talking about from the gameplay mechanics.
Yeah.
And it has a story on top of it that's actually interesting and crazy, and you want to play, and sometimes you want to play it again. Like,
yeah.
I still every now and then will bust out and play Saints Row 4.
Me too.
But I feel like Crackdown, you know, it's. I feel like they're gonna have it's gonna be a hard sell. Like, I honestly, part of me is like, man, they're gonna need to announce some kind of like.
You know what I feel like is, I feel like when they announced Crackdown and they showed it when they had the whole cloud computing destroying the city, blah 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 blah. When that wasn't a thing, I feel like they should have really taken 2 steps back and gone, okay, let's go back even further. Like, and I don't know, you know, but here's the thing: is this is what I was trying to say in the first part. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe the story for Crackdown 3 is really excellent, but I don't know, because they aren't showing it. Like, their big thing was like,
I don't
look at this destruction and look at all the things that you could do. And I'm like, that's great. But you know what? I didn't bother finishing Just Cause 3 because the story, you know, well, also the loading times and the fucking online bullshit. But, you know, you need to hook me. Good gameplay will get you so far, but only so far for me.
Well, I can already tell you they're not going to have interesting characters, because the thing about the characters you play as is they're all the same.
Yeah,
they're all the same. Like, regardless of what skin you choose, they're all the same character, and they're all mute.
Yeah,
and they all have no personality because they're not supposed to. And
that doesn't really interest me all that much. Like, if that's not the case, then you need to show me something else. You show me a villain, show me something to get me interested. Yes,
Terry Crews isn't going to do it.
Well, I don't know. Is he the main character?
No,
obviously not. Like, is he going to be talking?
He is a character in the game
the entire time.
Probably not.
Well, show me a montage of that. I'll be like, hey, I want to play that Terry Crews game where you get to throw a card at a guy. But I don't know. Pick another number. Let's just a couple more of these.
What were the numbers?
1 through 6.
Let's go 6.
6. If Valve shows off Steam 2 in the next year, fuck would that even be? Will we finally get what everybody has been dying for? Will we get Gary's Mod 2? I'm not answering that question. Pick another one. That's
4.
What the fuck would Steam 2 be?
4.
4. Are there any games that you could think of that you greatly enjoy but know would make terrible dojo videos? I'm enjoying Lobotomy Corporation, a mix of Fallout Shelter and SCP Containment Breach, but I know that it would bore people to death. Yes.
I think there's been a couple. that you and I have talked about. Like, I know one game that I would fucking love to do as an actual dojo, and I think you have done it as a dojo, or may have been back in the loading bar days. I don't know.
Yeah.
And part of the problem is not because it wouldn't be entertaining. It's the copyrights, which is fucking Brutal Legend.
Oh yeah,
because all the music copyrights would just be fucking crazy, so that would never happen.
The only way that would work is if it ended up doing Sterling's copyright deadlock, where enough places were trying to copyright all the music that it ended up crashing into each other and not working. But
I'm trying to think of like other games that would like I really feel like Age of Empires and things don't really work as dojos, and we've tried.
RTSs are difficult. JRPGs are difficult a lot of times because there's just so much goddamn talking in them.
Yeah.
I feel like you and I have actually scrapped a couple adventure games because a lot of times they get to be so talky that there's no reason. Like if we're actually paying attention to it, it's difficult to even have a video because the game itself is doing all the work.
Yeah, I remember there was one where we were just like, nothing fucking happened. Nothing's fucking happened. We've been playing this game for almost an hour and nothing's fucking happened. Let's scrap it. Let's get rid of it. Yeah, because it's laughing at its own humor and it's not good. The fuck this, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's. I like to think that we can make a dojo video out of anything, even the most boring. Oh, you know what? I don't know. Yeah, Brian and I tried to play Soda Drinker Pro.
Oh,
and we got about 10 minutes in. We're just like, fuck this fucking game. And people were like, no, you got to stick with it. I'm like, no, I don't. I do not. In fact, visual novels, Amanda and I, we've done a few of them, but I'm only down for the ones these days that have ridiculous sex stuff in them. Like somebody in the comment section really wants me to play the new Danganronpa game that came out this week, and I'm like, fuck Danganronpa. I played both 1 and 2 for 45 minutes, and nothing fucking happened. And they're like, well, you have to play it for 2.5 hours. And I'm like, I'm not willing to do that. I got 46 more hours of Persona 5 to deal with, all right? Like,
yeah, but he's saying, like, what games do you like that that would not work as a dojo?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. It's like I feel like there's a couple of games that I've liked that I've pitched to you to do videos on, and then you said that won't work because this is boring, and I'm like, oh yeah, it is kind of boring.
Yeah,
like it's been one of those things where you've told me the reason why it wouldn't work as a dojo, and I've been like, you know what, you're right, you're 100% right. Now that it's a game that I like though, and I can't remember what the fuck title it is though, but I know there's been a couple that I've actually pitched that you've been like, that won't work because of X reason.
Okay. All right, we're not going to answer the rest of these. Our next one comes in from Jerry. Jerry says, hey, this is Jerry from Miami. Hey, Jeff and John, I have 2 questions that you can both answer. During the Morrowind dojos this week, you commented that MMOs have not evolved since World of Warcraft. My question, what leap forward would help the genre? More importantly, what have been other leaps forward in video games that changed their respective landscapes? Thanks for all you do. Stay safe, for the night is dark and full of terrors. Jerry!
I'm going to be honest. I don't know what leap forward could change MMOs.
I feel like I would restructure them to be to have more replay value, and instead of being this endlessly long chain that just goes from the beginning, from your starting area all the way to the end game content, to have a shorter game that had more incentive, more replay incentive.
Wasn't that Guild Wars?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I would actually, I'd be interested in seeing a game where, like, maybe the first, like, okay, here's maybe what I would do. First off, I think that any quest that involves collecting a certain number of anything, fuck that right off the gate. Like, take that out. Like, none of that. Get me 5 pelts from the rabbits that spawn in this area. This is garbage. That's dick garbage, and we're done with that. But maybe when you pick a character class, maybe for every character class that you pick, say you make an MMO with 6 character classes, have the first like 10 hours of that game be specific to that character class, not like the opening area and then you're in the area with all the rest of the, you start off in the Paladin opening area and then you're into the Alliance opening area, but like have a whole kind of campaign thing, and then maybe from there bracket out into like a central hub, and then put the character to a choice about, like, maybe for the next set you're going to go down a specific road that's actually going to close off other spokes of the game to you in order to kind of funnel you through a very specific type of thing. I think the thing about MMOs that ends up turning me off is the fact that it just feels like I'm in this big crowded area where everybody's doing the same thing, where it's just like everybody's wandering around doing the exact same fucking thing. Star Wars got pretty close for me, just with the characterization and the BioWare dialogue options and stuff like that. But
I thought like games like Marvel Superheroes or whatever did, because that's kind of an MMO.
Sort of.
I mean, it's not a subscription based one, but it is kind of an MMO.
I feel like, kind of taking the Diablo multiplayer and then like boosting it a little bit.
Yeah, just having it being massive online.
I probably would also, I don't know, maybe this goes against the whole, one of the M's in MMO, but like maybe a smaller number of people, maybe like more server branches that held a maximum of X number of people. So you really got to know the people that were in that branch instead of having just like 400 people around the auction house if you were dealing with a server that had like a 50 to 100 people, and instead of having these giant servers, have smaller servers that held less people, so that you really like, because that's one of those things that I feel like could make an MMO even better, is like if you just kept running into the same person over and over and over again, and then one day you're just like, all right, hey, and then we'll develop a friendship or whatever, instead of just being like Final Fantasy XIV has a thing where you party up to do these dungeons, and we just party up and then nobody talks to each other. We all just run around and do our various jobs, and then we leave the dungeon. It's very sterile. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe something like Dark Souls, where you're summoning people in to help you, but then you also have antagonists coming in to, hurt you. Maybe trying to expand that's kind of Dark Souls thing into a larger PvP type of thing, where you have a very dedicated real-time attack mechanic, but then a skill-based gameplay, but then with more people. I don't know. I really don't know.
You mean like Let It Die?
Let It Die actually had a lot of interesting... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Well, let's answer the second question. More importantly, what have been other leaps forward in video game genres that have changed their respective landscapes?
Cover fire.
Cover-based shooting.
Yeah,
Yep.
cover-based shooting. Gears of War fucking...
Yep. Level-based unlocks and FPSs.
Yeah.
Modern Warfare changed everything for a while there. MOBAs. MOBAs have changed the landscape of at least competitive video gaming significantly as they've gone on more. I actually think my prediction is that the next thing is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Yeah,
that we're going to see. I think it was too fast by E3. We saw that one at Microsoft's conference, but the everybody in an arena in a small a continuously shrinking arena. That's going to be the new thing, and you're going to see at least a half dozen competitors to the throne over the next year or so, because it's just too fucking popular. It's fucking so insanely popular. I went over to my friend's house this weekend. He was playing it in 4K. He's got Google Fiber and a 4K monitor and a bitchin' PC, and he was playing PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. I'm just like, I've never seen this game look this good before.
Jesus.
But yeah, there've been a lot of them. There've been a lot of different kind of leaps. I don't know. I hope that VR ends up being one of them. I hope it does. I really like the fact that in Arizona Sunshine, which we were playing this week, that you have to aim. Like, you have to actually take the
gun
and aim up the front and back sights at a zombie, and if you do it well, you get a headshot, and it's just very satisfying.
There's another game, like Brookhaven Chronicles, I think it is. I actually really like that game. It's the same thing. It's like you have to actually aim, and apparently I've heard that Arizona Sunshine is adding aim support.
I think it already has it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, apparently they're patching in something to fix the aim support.
Oh, well, there's a lot of problems with that game.
But apparently, like, it's like if you play that with the aim, like, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
like it's.
I thought about it. I just wasn't willing to go out and spend the money.
Yeah, I really want to go out and buy it with Farpoint, but apparently the bundle is like hard to find.
Oh, well, how much is it with Farpoint?
It's $79, like $80.
Yeah, it's also weird because Arizona Sunshine, at least in the beginning in the single player campaign, it's all handguns for a while, and the Farpoint controller seems like it's two-handed.
Like a rifle.
Yeah. All right, Ian writes in and says, "Hello, you classy motherfuckers. With the release of games like Evolve and Friday the 13th, it seems like asymmetrical multiplayer games are becoming more popular, with one person receiving an advantage while the rest of the players work against them as a team, trying to stop them from achieving their goal. This new formula has made me wonder what older movie franchises or original ideas would you like to see in this format? Personally, I think a Predator game where one person plays as the Predator would be, and the rest play as Special Forces, or a Die Hard game where most people play as the heist team with one person is randomly selected to play as John McClane and foil their plot would be great. Thanks, and keep making quality content. Your humble cocaine princess, Ian."
Actually, the Die Hard would be interesting, because usually the way the games have been is that the people who are multiple people are usually the good guys and the singular is usually the bad guy.
Right.
Whereas it'd be the opposite way around.
Yep.
I think that could actually be interesting.
That kind of reminds me. It just reminds me of the. You remember back when Splinter Cell was trying to have multiplayer?
Yeah.
And they had like the mercenary team versus the stealth team, and that was interesting. That was kind of an asymmetrical multiplayer because both sides had different sets of skills. I had a friend who is a real nasty motherfucker. Because it turns out in Splinter Cell that when you had voice comms, like your friend could hear your voice comms, but like if you were playing as the agent team and you grabbed one of the mercenaries, that you could talk into your voice comms and they would then hear you.
Yeah, well, like even the Jason, the Friday the 13th game, like unless you have the walkie-talkie, no one can hear you talk unless you're standing right next to them.
Yeah.
So that's the only way. Like that's actually another thing, is that if you're standing near Jason, Jason can hear you.
Yeah. As far as other franchises that would work for that, I don't know.
I think Predator would be an Aliens game would also be pretty good. I think.
You know what would be really cool is if
Alien versus Predator,
Godzilla, is if you got to play as like you had multiple people that were playing in like tanks and planes, kind of Earth Defense Force style, and then one person playing as a very slow, but you know, there was kind of a version of that in the VR playroom, right, where you had the one person and the little other guys. But I feel like that'd be interesting asymmetrical multiplayer because you know. Be a big Godzilla with a big Godzilla health bar, then everybody else gets to play as like, you know, you get 99 spawns, right? And then I'm going to spawn as an airplane and try to...
King Kong would also be a good one.
Sure.
But no, like, I'm trying to think. John Wick.
John Wick? One person gets to be John Wick. They have to play with the move controller. Everybody else plays like Call of Duty style, but it takes like 1,000,000 hits to take down John Wick, and then you get to the two aim controllers. Just bang, 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 bang. That would be great.
Yeah,
that'd
John
be
Wick.
good.
But
I'm trying to think of other you know, kind of 1 versus 100 type of things. I can only think of him as that scene at the end of The One with Jet Li, where he's on top of that giant ziggurat, like fighting all those people. That would be great. What if you had like a kung fu game where like one person plays in VR with the sticks as like a kung fu master, and then everybody else has to like run up, and you're just like.
I wouldn't even have to have them VR. Just 1 versus 100 or whatever. But yeah, no. Trying to think of like some other games that are not like action movies, like some other movie franchises that would actually be interesting. Like I like the idea of the Godzilla. That's a good one. The Die Hard one's a good one. I definitely, John Wick's I think is a good one.
Any of the you could probably make it. I mean, this is a spin from Jason, but like any of the old Universal monsters type of thing, where you have like a Dracula, or like what if you had a Frankenstein, and then a bunch of people had torches and pitchforks, and they're like, and Frankenstein gets to go and hit him around, but
yeah. And the thing for Frankenstein is just to escape, not necessarily to kill the other players. Because, that fits with the character. Frankenstein's monster. Because his name is not Frankenstein.
Actually, Frankenstein was the doctor that created... Yeah, no, I know.
But noting that Dr. Frankenstein was the real monster of the film.
What was I just thinking? Something... Predator is actually a really good... That's actually a really interesting idea.
You could do it... first Predator movie, just,
Yeah, and make it like Battlefield Vietnam, but then you get to be the Predator, you get to be up in the trees and stuff like that. Was I just thinking of something and I lost it? I was thinking Aliens might work if you had one person as like a Marine and then everybody else are. And they've actually kind of done that before. Like there were some of the AVP games that had like a multiplayer mode where it was like when you die, you become the aliens. Yeah. So that
I'd even say like an AVP style game where it's like multiple aliens and one Predator.
Yeah. Or even if you wanted to go back to Alien, you could even do the kind of like it's one alien, like Alien Isolation, right?
Yeah.
Where it's one alien, but then nobody really has guns, and so you got to kind of try to like work together and see if you can't lure the alien into like certain areas or do things like that. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's about all I got.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it. I really can't think of anything else.
Okay. You try to think non-action movies. One player is Satan, and then he's like asking the other players what they want, and then he's giving it to them, but he takes their soul in return. It's an asynchronous multiplayer game where Satan's trying to get your soul, and you got to do voice comms to try to offer them whatever.
You gotta play a banjo to outplay him with a banjo, or not a banjo,
fiddle.
Fiddle.
Yeah. That's where you use the move controller, right? I've been playing a lot of VR games. Just Daniel writes in and says, "Hello, Jeff and John. I've been going through old pictures of my hometown and remembering places and businesses that were around when I was a kid, but are no longer there. I'm curious if the Rage Crew has the same nostalgic thoughts about certain places from your hometown, and if so, what were they? I'm especially curious about how Jeff feels since he was born and raised in Austin. Thanks and take care, Daniel." I don't know. Do you have any?
I know that the places that I would be nostalgic for no longer exist because they stopped existing before I moved away, and that was part of the reason that I moved away. Yeah, like with the place I used to live in Spring, Texas. Like the comic shop that was there closed down.
Yeah,
and I was already not shopping. As like the local arcade at the mall closed down. Like the stuff that I feel like that I would be nostalgic for. Like about the only thing I can think of is at that same mall, maybe the AMC movie theater that was there. But I also know that mall looks nothing like what I remember it looking like. And I moved to Austin, and I moved to Austin for the comic shops because the comic shops are better here.
Yep. You know what? It's funny as I think about this question, I can honestly say that like I don't really miss a whole lot of old Austin because I mean, like there were like a lot of the bars that I go to. I mean, like what the one thing that probably comes up in my mind is the Poorhouse.
Yeah.
Is there used to be...
That's about the big one that I'm nostalgic for here in Austin as well.
Yeah, this central... It was right in the middle of town, so I could get the southeast to come up, and then the north people could come down. We could all meet in the middle. It had a gigantic patio. It had a tiny little bar. Good jukebox.
I had a birthday party there.
Yeah, burgers. John was a big fan of the burgers. Cheap beer. And back in the old glory days of Spill, we used to be able to get everybody out there on a Friday night, and everybody would just kind of go and hang out there. They shut it down. They built a condo where it used to be, and they reopened a Poorhouse, but now it's too clean and it's too bright, and
it's also smaller.
It's smaller, and the benches don't feel right and blurg. But like when I think back to my childhood in Austin, there are places that used to be here. There used to be a place here in town. So I don't know if you know this, John, but at the this is a story. Yeah, I feel like people may or may not know this. I actually never went in there, and I always wanted to. But okay, so on I-35, when you're going like north-south on I-35,
right? The adult video megaplex.
Yes, the adult video megaplex. When I was a child, I spent a lot of time in there. No, between. Okay, so if you're going north on I-35, okay, between, you may not even, this. If you don't know this, it's fine. Between 183 and Runberg, on the right-hand side of the road, there's this, like, big, like, Asian buffet place. It's called, like, Fujiyama Buffet.
I think I've seen it.
Okay. When I was a kid, that was the old San Francisco Steakhouse. And it had this like light up sign. I remember because I was a kid, it would light up, and it was crazy looking, right? And the weird thing about the old San Francisco Steakhouse was that in the middle of it, it had a really high ceiling, and they had a swing that came down. And a woman, while you were sitting there eating your old San Francisco steak, whatever that means, would go and a few times during the dinner service, would get up on this swing, and she would swing like the length of the building. Like this swing would go so far back and forth that she would end up almost touching the ceiling of the building and then coming back down again, going to the other side. I never actually saw it, but like on the sign, they had a lady in a swing, like going like, "Hey," and she wore this big dress. There's a few other things now that I think about that, mostly restaurants. There's a place called Gunther's that is now it was also between Breaker and Runberg, that is now like a deck store, and it used to be a German food restaurant. And actually, now that I think about it, I've got like a few more places, but they're all restaurants. So Gunther's was a German restaurant, so they had like beer and brats and schnitzels and all kinds of stuff. And my dad took me there a few times. It was the first time that I ever had anything remotely. You think of German cuisine, like it was an actual sit-down dinner place where you could get a schnitzel and a plate full of pickles and some beers and whatever. Same was true there was a place on the road to, or no, this was in a different place. I think it might be Jerry's Artorama now, over by Highland Mall. Used to be a restaurant called Nighthawk that was a steakhouse. The same Nighthawk you may know from the TV dinners. If you remember the Nighthawk TV dinners where it was like a little patty of meat and then like corn and whatever. But when I was a kid, my dad used to take me there for a steak on my birthday. So every year on my birthday, he would take me to Nighthawk, and I'd get a filet mignon and a baked potato and a cheesecake and all this stuff. And it was real classy. It was super dark. But, it's funny. For the most part, I don't really miss the stuff that's gone because Nighthawk was great. I'll never forget it. But I can get a better steak these days elsewhere, right? Gunther's was interesting. There's not really like a German restaurant in town, but for the most part, you got to remember, Daniel, that the plot of my life has only seen things getting better. Like I was telling, I was watching Glow, and I was telling my lady friend, like I remember when Gatorade became a thing. Because there was a time when Gatorade was just like, well, first it wasn't a thing, then it was just a powdered sports drink for athletes, and when they finally brought Gatorade and put it in convenience stores, so you could go buy Gatorade and drink it. Yeah. And at first it was just lime, and then suddenly it was like, oh, there's a new flavor. Like, I remember that stuff. So the chart of my life in general has been the availability of more and more and more things that I couldn't get access to before, sushi, cappuccino, like fucking chicken McNuggets. These were all invented during my lifetime. The rise and fall of VHS, from not being able to see a movie if it's not in the theater, to being able to tape stuff off of TV, to who gives a fuck about TV, let's all get fucking rid of TV. From records to tapes to MP3 to CDs to MP3 players to Spotify. I have seen these things over the course of my life, and generally speaking, it's been for the better. Yeah. The changes have been for the better. More opportunities to get more different types of food, music, entertainment, at my fingertips. Yeah. Like, for fuck's sake, I know that you don't know this, but for anybody, you don't really engage with this, but you probably know this. In Austin, I can go to my local convenience store, and the selection of beer that is in the thing is like, you used to have to drive out of your way to go to a specialty store to find that amount of those different types of beer.
There were times when you go to the grocery store and there's literally 3 beers, 3 different types of beers, 3 different brands, and those 3 brands, there was only one type.
Yeah, yeah. Like, my dad used to go to the store to get Dos Equis, and that was like, because it was like Bud Light, Coors Light, Shiner, and now it's just like, I was at a convenience store with my friend in South Austin, and they had the hibiscus saison that brewed at this Adelbert's that's down the street from my house. And I'm just like, the amount of things in this town that you can do now that you couldn't do back in the olden days is incredible. And so I have some nostalgia for old Austin, but like, I just wish that the property values weren't so shitty here in Austin.
Yeah, tell me about it.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up because this last one isn't even a question. This is from Ugo. And he says, "Greetings, Jeff and John. This is Ugo, the big black bearded dude that you hung out with a couple years ago at Jim's." Well, geez, Guy, that could just be anybody.
You hung out with him at Jim's. I did.
Anyway, I'm going to make this short and sweet, mainly because of you and another podcast. I've started a podcast of my own called the What If Podcast. In my latest episode, Rage Select, shout out. He sent me a link to it.
Oh, I got a friend request from this dude. I didn't know who he was, so I deleted it.
Oh. He said, "I'd love to get a shout out of your show. If that's not okay, just wanted you to check out my stuff. Once again, thank you for all the entertainment knowledge. Keep raging, Hugo." knows Ugo.
I feel really bad now.
Oh, it's
because I couldn't tell who he was. I was like, I don't know anyone on this. Like when I get a friend request on Facebook, like I look at, okay, do I know anyone who is friends with this person?
Right.
No. Okay. Have I met? It's like usually the first thing. Have I met this person? No, I've never met them.
Yeah.
Okay. Are they affiliated with anyone I know? And then, like, if they are, it's like, okay, is this someone I like that I know?
Right.
Kind of thing. And so I'm like, I don't know who this is, but he does a podcast, and like it's called the What If Podcast, but I don't know who this is. I'm just gonna delete.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched.
So sorry about that, dude.
I watched a little bit of it. His mic's a little bit rough, but it seems like they're just starting up, doing a thing. I don't know.
Hey, here's the thing, and here's the thing I've told people, and it always chaffs my goat when people when people try to say like, oh man, you need to get like the biggest paid equipment, the best sounding microphones, the best, like if you're not going to get the best, then don't fucking start, kind of thing. It's like no, work with what you got.
Yep.
If you don't have the best, fine. Work with what you've got. Work to make what you've got the best you can make it. And then when you have the funds or the capital to then improve your equipment, improve it, and it's going to be that much better.
Sure.
Like, so start with what you got. Get the audience, because the content is always going to be more important than the quality, at least starting out.
Yeah.
And then the better you can make it afterwards is great. So if his microphone is not the greatest in the world, that's perfectly fine. At least he's out there doing it.
That's true. Gotta get out there and do your stuff.
Because there's a lot of people who are like, man, I wish I could do podcasts. Why aren't you? Well,
talking into a mic, man.
Yeah, it's like, why don't you? It's like, well, it's just a thing, and I don't really, I don't have like the best microphone. All I got is a stupid Rock Band mic, and I don't really think that's really, you can do a podcast. That totally can.
That's how I started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's our show. So a little shorter than usual. Thanks everybody for listening. Everybody be sure to wish John a happy birthday again in the comment section.
So I better see 2 happy birthdays from everybody.
Yes,
no,
double happy birthdays.
You don't have to wish me a happy birthday at all, but I appreciate it if you do.
Mail at RageSite. I'm Jeff, and I say you do have to wish it. Mail at RageSite.com is the email address. Send your questions in, questions, stories, whatever. We'll read them. And we'll see you next week. Good night.
Later.